Podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
Oh, what's going on, Jamsters? Welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session Podcast. It is Wednesday night. I'm John. He's Matthew. And it's the off season. So Wednesday nights, you're getting a heaping helpful of the Suns Jam Session Podcast. And we got a ton of shit to talk about. Obviously, the Kevin Durant news and how potentially he's going to be a trade target, which we've all known for quite some time. But now that we are 2 weeks away from the trade deadline, officially as of tonight, the rumors are starting to percolate. The Phoenix Suns got a new head coach, and there was a press conference that I went to yesterday. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The Valley jerseys are going to make a return. But Matthew, the NBA Finals, man, like, did you just watch this game? We're coming to you live right after Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Did you watch that game, man? And what'd you think?
No, I watched it. And, these pizzas I'm swallowing down as these games go by. I can't wait till the finals is over because I'm gaining quite a bit.
What kind of pizza?
Barro's Pizza again, and it was the extra meat one, and almost finished the whole thing. Had 2 sodas. I haven't had 2 sodas in, I think, 5 years, so I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm going to be quite bloated until this thing is over.
A lot of carbs.
I watched it. It's crazy how watching this game, you know it's a long game. It's going to be a battle, defense, high-powered offense. But you can just kind of sense that, like, the Pacers had it early on, right? Like, in these games, like last game, OKC, the first quarter, the first maybe part of the second quarter, you're like, OKC has that game. But tonight I felt the same way, like the Pacers had it because they were just keeping it close. I feel like they're just going to get it in the end because they're really good in crunch time.
Well, first and foremost, I got to say first, I had pizza tonight too. In fact, I'm going to do my best not to be grumpy because I just had one of those weird days, right? Like, I got in my truck, I went to go put gas in it because my game plan is like, I'm going to get gas, I'm going to go to Salad and Go and get myself, maybe a breakfast burrito and lunch, a nice salad. They got this Thai salad or something that's really good right now. And I get to the gas station, I forgot my wallet at home. Fuck me. Now I'm running late, so I get to work. Thankfully, I had hard-boiled eggs with me, so I had that for breakfast. And then 10:58. I go into the employee break room, which is kind of like right across from my office, to go fill up my water in one of, the thermo flask. So I fill it up, I put it down, I run to the bathroom, I pick it up on the way back. When I pick it up, I forgot to screw the cap on all the way. It falls down, water goes everywhere, all down my leg, huge puddle in the middle of the employee break room. And at 11 a.m., I have a interview I'm supposed to be conducting remotely. So I have to leave this huge mess. Like, I throw a couple signs up. I'm trying to conduct this interview. I'm all frazzled. I'm like typing a service ticket to the facilities team to come pick up my fucking mess. And then by like 3 o'clock, I'm starving. So I'm like rage texting my wife, like, I'm starving. What should I get? What should I do? And finally I said, fuck it. I'm ordering Papa John's. I'm coming home early. I've worked remote the rest of the day, watched the finals. And I got to say, I had Papa John's and I had their barbecue chicken pizza. It's just so good. And that game was fantastic. And to your point, yeah, Oklahoma City came out and put pressure on Indiana like they do. But Indiana responded back. And if OKC would have won this game, fine. I truly don't have a dog in the fight. I'm preferring the Pacers to win. But this was just such an entertaining basketball game. And as Suns fans, as two guys who every night watch the Phoenix Suns and analyze the way that they play, the way that they crash the boards, the way that they get out in transition, the lack of defense, the lack of playmaking, the lack of connectivity, to see two teams that possess these traits at such an elite level go back and forth, blow for blow, for essentially 3 full quarters. That's what we had. First half of the first quarter was kind of the Thunder's game, and the last half of the fourth quarter was the Pacers game. But everything in between was just high-quality basketball. And they keep saying that the ratings might be down for this finals. I feel bad for people who aren't watching this because this is fantastic basketball, man.
Yeah, and we knew ratings were going to be down. And you know what? The worst part of it is that we have to hear about it on every podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like as, basketball podcasts, Bill Simmons, No Dunks, the ones I listen to, like, just do us a favor. If we're listening to you guys, well, obviously we're basketball
We're watching
fans,
the finals.
Don't bring up the ratings because no one gives a shit about that anymore. As long as it's on TV, as long as we have access to it and we can watch it, then I'm fine with it. And plus those arenas too, I think going from Indy to OKC, like the impact of those arenas and how crazy they can be, especially Indy, man, how they're just built, the seats are like right on top of the court. Like you can just feel it, that energy in there, and especially in OKC. So obviously you want this to go 7. So with Indy winning this, if they would have lost this one, maybe it doesn't go 7. But now that they won this one, I feel like it's going to reach 7 games.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still, I'm standoffish because OKC can just turn up this level that I think it's scary. It's scary what they can do. Watching them play defense is truly remarkable. And kudos again to the Indiana Pacers for their ability to take advantage of the overhustle. And I think back during the season when I watched the Suns play, gosh, which team was it? I think it was Houston at some point. There's certain teams that gamble on defense, and OKC is one of them. And the Pacers were taking advantage of that aggressiveness. A lot of pump fake passes. And that pump fake pass gets Dort just enough out of the lane where he wants to go towards pump fake pass and go. And that opened up lanes and opened up good looks and opportunities for the Pacers. They took advantage of those. And again, I agree with your point. If we're listening to podcasts, if you're listening to this podcast right now, if you're watching the Phoenix Suns Jam Session podcast, we know you're a basketball head or you're a crazy psycho Sun sicko, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't need to sit here and remind you that the NBA ratings are down. You know what? If they're down, oh well. I'm watching it. I've always watched it. I will always continue to watch it. I love good basketball, and this is great fucking basketball. The last game, game 2, not so much, man. Like, that was kind of a boring watch. Game 1 was fun. It was, unbelievable with that Halliburton shot. But again, I think that if this series does have low ratings, and if this series is just for the basketball heads, for the psychos out there, for the sickos, I'm okay with it because I'm one of those.
Yeah, I think everyone's okay with it. And plus, like, you get just a high level of intensity between like the stars that are the stars of the series, even though SGA is not really considered a star to most people, and Halliburton's not either.
He's an
right?
MVP,
the most
though.
Overrated player. But now that Halliburton's really been putting on a show for us to watch, and everyone to watch that is watching, like, you can just see that this guy has it, but it's his teammates as well. So
yes,
it gives us like a little bit of hope. I think I mentioned this before, like, as Suns fans, where you don't need those superstars. You just need a guy and then a good surrounding cast that plays with energy, effort, and has a high IQ. And that's exactly what this Indiana Pacers team has. And that's why in the finals, and that's why they have a chance to actually win it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Halliburton doesn't need to go for 40 points for you to win. And that's the challenge that the Phoenix Suns have had for quite some time, is they like to put all their eggs into one scoring basket. And when we were a successful team, when we were a team that went deep into the playoffs, won 64 games, made a finals appearance, is we had an even distribution relative to points. Obviously, Devin Booker was our primary guy. He was more of the SGA, but there was plenty of other guys who contribute, like DeAndre Ayton at times, like CP3 at times, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Dario Big Butt Saric. I mean, we lost the finals because we lost him, but again, high quality basketball. Hope everybody's enjoying that. But again, this is the Suns Jam Session podcast. So let's talk about some Phoenix Suns news.
And now, ladies and Jamsters, news about the Phoenix Suns.
All right, Phoenix Suns news. Where should we start first? Well, let's just start with the return of the Valley. For those of you who haven't been on social media or don't know, or if you simply just come to the Suns Jam Session podcast for all of your Suns needs, the Valley jerseys are going to be making a comeback. The City Edition jerseys, the iconic gradient sunset with the Valley written across it, that debuted in the 2020-2021 season that the Suns went to the NBA Finals, and the two jerseys that they wore in their 6 games in the finals against the Bucks were the black City Edition Valley jerseys and those orange fucking Statement Edition jerseys that we all hate for being cemented in history. And then they wore those City Edition jerseys again the next season, the season that they won 64 games. They're making a return, and it's a trend that's going around a lot of different NBA teams. It appears that the NBA with their City Edition jerseys are kind of doing their most popular City Edition jerseys, because I believe this is the 10th year of City Edition jerseys. So hearing that, what are your thoughts on the return of the Valley, Matthew?
I might say too soon. So before the pod, you did let me know, because I'm not on Twitter too much, and I was on there today, but you said this is a week ago. So my apologies, everyone. I was delayed on it. So my first reaction when you told me tonight is the fact that the Suns team, it's kind of up in the air. I would rather these jerseys come back where it's kind of a team that's cemented, where last year we maybe lost in the second round or third round, but we're building on that so we can look forward to it, then bring back the Valley jerseys. I think it's a little too soon, but it's another thing where Matt Ishbia, I feel like, is looking at Twitter and he's seeing that all last season, everyone was wanting these back this season. So he delivered. I just think it's a little bit too early. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he was on Twitter a lot, and you see all those threads like rank the top jerseys in the history of the Phoenix Suns, and the Valley was constantly near the top or at the top. So maybe that's one of the reasons he's doing it. But again, I don't think that this is necessarily an Ishbia decision. I think that this is an NBA-wide decision, as every team is returning a variation of their most popular City Edition jerseys over the past decade. Obviously, the Valley was the most popular jersey. Sorry to Los Suns and the different iterations that we had of that. I have an issue with this. I do. I think that this is one of those situations where what those jerseys represent to us is something special and unique. And the fact that they're going to be brought back, it doesn't mean that the Magic's going to come back with them. You know, like every year you get those new City Edition jerseys, and what's unique about them is they kind of encapsulate a moment in time. And, you know, you can look back at the year in which we traded for Kevin Durant, for example. That was the teal City Edition jerseys, you know? So it's one of those things where it's a fashion capsule, if you will. And I don't know. I think that it's one of those situations where I like what I like who we were when we wore them. And this is one of those situations where I just don't think that it's good timing, if you will. Like, it's not because I don't love the jerseys. I do. They're top 5 in the franchise history, no question. But what made them iconic wasn't just the look. It was the moment in which that team, you know, that roster, the runs that they had, the sense that we were building something real and something lasting. And now the Magic feels like compartmentalized, if you will, like tucked away in a time capsule somewhere between the bubble and the broadcast booth. So my worry is with this Valley redo, that it's bad timing for the Suns, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's really necessary to have them back this early. Like, it's kind of a downer to me, honestly, unless we put together a good roster and something to root for. And obviously the Magic comes back, because the last 2 years, the City Edition jerseys weren't the best. I mean, they were great, but it's just like there was nothing connected to it, right? It was just kind of miserable when you kind of think
shit
about
seasons.
It. Good intros, everything was
back.
good.
We'll look back at El Valle and the Valley in the Western Font and think of Bradley Beal and shit seasons.
Yeah, him squatting in front of a El Camino or something like that. That's what I was thinking. Or him, or Grayson Allen with his big guns doing that. Like, that's what I think of. And I don't think about winning or the fans. Like the Valley thing, it reminds me of how everything just went. Like the whole arena was redone. Like it was all black. Everything was painted black.
Post-COVID.
Like post-COVID, the first like 6 rows were just closed off. The fans were crazy wearing their different colors. Like everything was just representative of that jersey. Now bringing it back, I know that's kind of a weird thing though. The past 10 years, last decade, bring it back this soon. Like, is that kind of lazy? Do they have a lot of leftover jerseys?
I'd love to say that, because I think that, you know, going back to the Valley jersey itself, like, would a variation have softened the sting? Like a white version or a purple remix or some
purple would be cool.
It'd be cool, I think. You know, but like, I don't work in the Suns marketing department. I just obsess over their decisions like it's a full-time job. And apparently across the NBA, the memo's gone out. Recycle the glory years. Run it back, because frankly, the league seems fresh out of new ideas. And I think that's what it is. Like, hey, we could take a year off from all this new marketing stuff and just kind of run it back. Play the hits. And that's what they're doing. It's not a bad thing. It's not the worst thing. I mean, but you know, I see what some of the comments are saying. And again, if you're joining us live on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch, thank you for doing so. But, you know, Suns Fever, mixed feelings about the jerseys. You know, Hey Zero, the jerseys return when the team is hanging by a thread. And Suns Fever, like the jersey, don't know if the team deserves them. You know, and like Alias says, I still have a Valley Mikal Bridges jersey. It was a special time. Yeah, I have like a jersey shirt of Mikal Bridges. It's like, yeah. Now what's it going to say on the back? Like Micic? Like, I don't know. I just can't get into it.
No, we can't. The actual court though, I'm interested to see how that looked, because the last one was so cool.
Yes.
So maybe they changed that up a little bit. You know, a purple background, the actual jersey color purple, like that would look really cool.
Yeah.
Like the old 1990s one. Yeah, that kind of purple. Yeah.
I'd be down. Yeah, I'd be down with that. But it's a jersey, ladies and gentlemen. But it's news. Obviously, the big news is we have a new head coach, and he was introduced yesterday.
He's Jordan, the best coach Sparty money has bought. Yes, he's Jordan,
What a cutie.
I love making drops. That was so stupid.
That's John on guitar too, by the way.
Yes,
the close up and everything.
Do you know
that's my sister, his wife.
Do you know how long it was to get those chords down, man?
Just
like
down
Jesus.
perfect, huh?
Oh, and I was doing it in the garage. There's no AC, sweating on the guitar. But yeah, Jordan Ott was introduced yesterday. Any initial thoughts? Just watching the presser as a whole, do you have any takeaways that instantly kind of spark your brain?
Yeah, the first takeaway, he looks like the brother of Timothy Oliphant. I think Oliphant.
Totally, dude. Totally.
From Deadwood, doesn't he?
100%. When he
came
walking,
he looks just like him.
So I was there. It was at the Verizon 4G Center, which is the practice facility on 44th Street in Camelback. And I was there, and I was kind of close to where he was walking out. And I was like, dude, that's fucking Timothy Oliphant right there. Like, I just watched. He's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He has a part in that. And I was just like, dude, I just saw him. A great scene with Leonardo DiCaprio. Now he's head coach of the Phoenix Suns, man. That's fantastic.
Man. He looks just like, so that's a plus. That's not a red flag or anything, because that guy's a great actor. Deadwood, if you haven't watched it, one of my favorite shows.
I hear good things. I haven't watched it though.
Really, really good. I think that, there wasn't a show really. It was just a guy that was just answering questions. He's new to the position. But, from what we've heard, what I think Devin Booker's been included on these interviews and kind of getting to know him probably in the process. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the rookies, second-year guys, Oso and Ryan Dunn are there, and also
Jalen Bridges and Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, they were all there. So, I don't think I've ever seen players there supporting a coach that was just hired in the press conference. I don't think I've ever seen that. Maybe it's happened before, but I think that was all positive signs.
It is the workout facility, and I kind of feel like they were probably there working out.
That's probably why.
They're like, what's going on?
That's why he was mentioning he can't wait to get in there and work. Never mind. That's actually probably why they were there.
Well, trust, of course, isn't built in a press conference. And words at the podium don't guarantee wins. But when I was there yesterday, you could feel it, like something's shifting. And it was a subtle but meaningful energy. Jordan Ott was poised. He was thoughtful. He was direct. His focus on maximizing the opportunity ahead was apparent, not performative. And I think that that's what Budenholzer and Vogel kind of had. Was they're old school coaches. I think that this is a guy who has an opportunity, and I think that the understanding is he's going to bring toughness. He's going to bring a culture. He's going to try at least, but he has the energy to do so. And one of the things that he said, I'm going to bring up a clip real quick.
Thanks, Gerald. I think, moving that 12 inches over is different, but I'm always going to bank on who I am as a person. That hasn't changed. I think if you ask around the people that I've been around, we're going to demand that you work. That's where it's going to start. I want them to know and believe that I'm going to help them. We, this place, we're going to help them. We're going to help them at every phase of their game. We're going to help develop them, get to a new level that they didn't think they could get to. And it's going to take all of us. And then it's tough. It's tough to play in the NBA. And I want them to know when they're out there playing that we're together. Not only your teammates, but us as coaches, all the support staff, we're all here to find solutions. And then after the game, we'll talk about it, evaluate it, get to the next.
So what I liked about that is that's the mentality of a servant leader. And that's what's been missing here in Phoenix for the past couple of years. Monty Williams was a servant leader. He was somebody who, as a leader, said, what can I do for you as a player? And Jordan Ott stated that. That was one of his first statements was, I think that was actually the first statement right there. He answered Gerald Bourguet from PHNX. But, he talks about being in the NBA is a tough job. Everybody's expecting a lot from you at all times. And my job is to try to guide these guys through that. Whereas in the past with Vogel and with Budenholzer, you have the old school coach who's sitting there telling them what they're doing wrong and not necessarily praising them for doing right. And that's okay. There's different types of leaders. There's different types of way of holding people accountable. But I liked what Jordan Ott said there because, again, being a servant leader is something that is very prevalent and needed in the modern NBA in the player empowerment era, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. But then there's also that thin gray line, that little gray area where, how much do you listen to the player? How much do you implement your own system and just have them make sure that they buy in? But I think a guy like Booker, and especially with Kevin Durant, Beal gone, guys that probably weren't listening and didn't give a fuck what these coaches had to say in the first place, Booker might seem and might be one of those guys that can work with the coach and not be told to shut up, right? Budenholzer's did it to him once. I think it was one time told him to shut up. Who knows how many times he's told him to shut up? But the fact that Booker had to be told to shut up by a coach, this guy doesn't seem like he would do that. But it's also like, make sure that you are strong enough to know what's right, what's wrong, and not have these players step all over you and not take control. So
and you feel that from him.
Yeah, I kind of do, but you know what? I don't want to get too much into the press conference.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, let's start building stuff. Let's see how it works on the court. So right now with the press conference, I liked it. It's fine.
Yeah,
but it wasn't anything where I'm like, all right, I'm buying in. He looks like he's focused and ready to build instead of just speaking the words and not proving it.
Exactly. You know, it was a quieter press conference, but maybe it was a louder message because of it. And again, I've said this before on the podcast. I've written about this on Bright Side of the Sun. I refuse to get excited about anything. Like, you have to show me. You can tell me things all day, but you have to show me. And the Suns are going to have to show us. Jordan Ott's going to have to show us in the way that he performs. The Suns and an organization are going to have to show us what their vision is by the way they execute these next 3 weeks with the NBA draft, the trade market, and the free agency impending. They have a lot to prove. One thing, so I was going to ask, I had like 3 questions lined up to ask Jordan Ott. And of course, you know, the big guys, you know, Arizona Sports, Kellen Olson, Gerald Bourguet, Dwayne Rankin, they all took my questions before I had a chance to answer. And I'm sitting there like trying to think of a question because like I had a perfect opportunity to ask this guy a question. But one of my primary question was about schematics. What I wanted to know what he was going to do schematically that was going to make him different. Obviously, Frank Vogel was touted as a defensive guy. Mike Budenholzer, we knew was going to come in here and we were going to launch a ton of threes. And obviously, we did launch a ton of threes, the most threes ever in the history of the Phoenix Suns, but we were the 27th overall defensive team. This is what Ott had to say about how his focus relative to schemes. And this is what I think is the one thing that did, like, something moved. I got a little excited.
With what Brian was mentioning about offensive and defensive philosophies, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to craft your own style of play. What comes to mind for you when Brian mentions those philosophies and sort of the key bullet points for you with the forward thinking that he was mentioning?
Yeah, everyone's going to say pace, right? So offensively playing faster, I think a way to look at it is playing earlier in the clock. We know the efficiency of offensive possessions, you know, start high and they drop. So how often can we get a good look early in the possession? So we're going to play fast. We're going to move. And, you know, the cutting piece is important. And we saw that this past season. Teams started to pick up on it. But we're going to cut. We're going to move bodies. And then we're going to find ways to get extra possessions. So we're going to crash, find ways to get extra possessions. Because, we know how important it is to win the possession game. Not only do you got to get high-quality shots, you got to be there in the possession game. And then defensively, like BG mentioned, I want to play aggressive. You know, we see it in the playoffs. We see exactly 2 teams that are at the end of the day in the finals, what aggressive defensive mentality does to the offense and how it impacts the offense. And then we're going to communicate. Defensively, it's so random. You know, offenses are becoming more conceptual. How we communicate, and then at the end of the day, defense needs effort. All-out effort all the time. And then we're going to have to be connected. You know, through the 48 minutes, there's going to be some type of adversity. Can we stay connected to move past that and be more connected for a longer period of time than the other team? And the last piece, and I've already hit on it a little bit, is we're going to do it collaboratively. And again, I think I've seen the change in the last handful of years in the NBA is we need everyone to help and find solutions. That's all departments, all of us, to help these guys not only get better, but then find solutions before the game, in game, and then post game. So that's going to be our playing style. Again, I am chomping at the bit to try to get this thing, get on the court, but to the guys' credit, they've been in here working, so it's definitely an exciting part.
Yeah, I mean, that is, again, show me. But that's the right answer. Yeah. That's a modern NBA team, and that's the advantage of bringing in Ott, who's 40 years old. He's born in 1985. He has some analytical background being a video coordinator, so he understands how analytics can help and hinder him. And everything he said right there relative to pace, defensive effort, communication, every one of those things was a challenge that this team had last year. You know, one of the issues that plagued the Suns in recent seasons was their offensive stagnation. Under like Budenholzer's tenure, the system was built around precision and spacing. during minicamp last year, he like had duct tape in the corners and said, this is the spot you have to run to. So players would run to specific spots on the floor, and that was meant to design and create lanes and open looks. But the challenge came once they got there, they just run to their marks and stay. There was no cutting. There was no movement. It was like, let's watch Booker. Let's watch KD. Let's see them drive. And if defenses collapse, we have a potential to be open. But stagnation, that breeds an ineffectiveness because you're stagnated mentally. So again, I have to see it, but I like the answer, Matthew.
I do too. Is it from commander to colonel, or is it colonel commander? Which one's below?
Those are two different military ranks. Like one's Navy, one's Army / Marines.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Okay.
Commander's Navy.
Well, my thing was saying, can Devin Booker be the commander and he's the colonel? But I guess that doesn't work.
Well, it would be like captain. Like captain runs the company, and then a colonel or lieutenant colonel. It goes be my little major, lieutenant colonel, general.
Well, you can kind of see how Booker can kind of fall right underneath him and just be kind of that guy to like transcend what he's trying to speak, what he's trying to show onto the court. He can be that guy that can make sure that everyone is. But here we go again. We're kind of saying that he'd be the leader. But, if Booker is the guy that they're going to feed, all this information to, and guys are going to listen to, moving defense, all of that, organizing everything so that everyone's actually feeding into it and believing it, then Booker has to be that guy, right? It seems like, I don't know. I can kind of see how it's going to work out between those two. It's that so far. That's what I'm reading. So far it's positive energy. It's something that I'm really thinking that Booker's looking forward to too.
I hope so. I think that there's an opportunity that lies before him going into his 11th season. And if he wants to cement his legacy in the NBA, if that's something that's important to him, if winning is important to him, he's going to seize this opportunity with a new head coach who's going to be willing to work with him, not against him. Because Budenholzer, Vogel, those are very much like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm the guy. I need you to do this. And again, with their inability to communicate with younger players, they'd run into challenges relative to pushing through tough conversations, and they would just be grumpy old men. Last thing on Ott. I have two things on Ott, but obviously there's the Michigan State ties, and that was asked.
Excuse me, there's been some jokes that they might rename the franchise the Phoenix Spartans with all the Michigan State ties. I was just wondering from your perspective how much that connection meant with Brian, with Matt, and what you think that brings to the table.
So I'll say it like this. Like, I've earned the right to be here. I've spent 20 years of working as hard as I possibly can to be here in this spot. I've been around great people, great coaches, great players to allow me to grow, put me in tough spots to see if I can get better. So I know I've earned this opportunity. I'm going to work as hard as I can from here on out to prove that I am here for the right reasons and I've earned this opportunity. So that excites me.
So there you go. Does the Michigan State thing bother you?
I did last podcast, but I don't care anymore. This guy, he talks like a cowboy. Does he chew?
He does.
He spits. He does.
No,
yeah. He's like a cowboy, man.
Yeah. Where is he from? I feel like he's a Midwest guy.
He definitely is.
Like he went to Penn State.
Amarillo?
He's from Pennsylvania. Went to Penn State. Yeah, okay. But he's got, he's just got that. He kind of has like it's the Oliphant thing, man. It's the Timothy Oliphant kind of.
I think that's what it is. Yeah,
100%, man. But I will say that two things. One, for those of you who are watching, you'll see I was at the press conference. There's a picture on the YouTube feed where I got up right when they were getting ready to do all of the photo ops, and I stood up and. It looks like I'm turtling or something.
Yeah, you're like that. What's that one meme of that baby running away from the thing blowing up the house or something? That's what it's like. You're just running away from it.
But the last thing I'll say on Jordan Ott, and I will play his drop again because I know a couple of people requested it in the chat. After it was all done, there was the scrum where media members were asking him more questions up front. He was more personal, obviously, in that context, in that environment. He joked about the Michigan State things. I knew one of you guys were going to ask it, man, and I appreciate it. You were very nice in the way you asked it, because he hears the stuff.
Yeah.
I introduced myself to him, John Voight at Bright Side of the Sun. Welcome to Phoenix. Shook his hand, and when I shook his hand, I mean, good handshake and eye contact the whole time.
Oh, I think you're gonna say he had a buzzer on his hand or something like that.
No, but like I just feel like Bud would never do that. Bud would be all over here, looking all over the place with a feeble handshake. That's not me reporting. I never shook his hand, but like, it just left a good impression. So
That's good.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is Jordan Knox.
He's Jordan Knox. The best coach Sparty money has bought. Yes, he's Jordan. He's Jordan Knox.
All right.
Tense dude.
Tense dude. Focused dude. And now it's time to talk about Kevin Durant, hypothetical trades. And I think a key piece of this is the understanding, as Matthew and I have both put together trades, and we're going to talk them out, comment on the chat. We think of them. We're going to talk to each other about kind of the schematics, the thought process behind that. But one thing that's important to note is the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo reportedly is not going to be leaving the Milwaukee Bucks.
But right now, there is no Giannis Antetokounmpo trade market. There is no Giannis Antetokounmpo trade discussions. He has not asked for it. The Bucks are not looking to trade him. And
I think that that's important because what that does is it makes Kevin Durant one of the most valuable assets on the market this upcoming offseason. And that's something we're not used to, Matthew. We normally have depressed assets at the back end of their career here. The Eric Bledsoes.
Yeah.
Anytime we trade anybody, we don't get a ton for them. So knowing that Kevin Durant is going to be somebody who's going to be sought out, there's an opportunity for a bidding war here. Shams Charania reported today that there's up to 5 teams and some mystery teams out there that we don't even know about yet who are going to express an interest in Kevin Durant. And all that does is drive up his value, which could potentially benefit the Phoenix Suns. So what are your thoughts on the fact that he is going to quite possibly be the prize of the 2025 offseason?
Well, we didn't think we were going to have any value with them at all coming, towards, the trade deadline or by the time the draft got here. We thought that Kevin Durant was just going to be kind of just thrown against the wall and like whoever wanted him, if you want a few draft picks or just a few role players, maybe. But it looks like it's going to be a little bit more steeper. I think the fact that Giannis stayed in Milwaukee is kind of, I like that. I like that for the Bucks. I like that for Giannis just because I don't want him to go anywhere else. I don't want him to go to the West. Anywhere at East didn't seem really sexy. So I think stay there. Maybe they can put some more pieces around it. I think they took some swings and they missed Kyle Kuzma for some reason, But
Yeah.
The whole thing with Kevin Durant, though, it's going to be interesting with the trades coming up that we have because I feel like we have 7 of them. And I bet you all of them are incorrect. Maybe one hits, but it's always going to be a team or something that we had no idea, and maybe a few extra things. So I'm excited.
And we have a Spurs fan in the chat. South Texas, a Spurs fan. He says KD has all the power right now. And he's not wrong. The Suns definitely do have power in this because they have options. But where KD has the power, and this is the one thing that I've written about on Bright Side of the Sun, and it's a reminder to Suns fans, is the value that you're going to get back from Kevin Durant isn't what a homer thinks. And I do have one homer trade in here, okay? Like, you start playing with the trade machine, you come across a transaction that works, you're like, dude, I could talk myself into this, but I know it's not going to happen. But the value of KD hinders on one simple thing. His next year is the end of his contract. So that means 2 things. One, he needs to be a part of the process of finding a suitor, because whoever is trading for him needs to know. It's like Pascal Siakam. When Pascal Siakam got traded from the Toronto Raptors to the Pacers last season, it was already discussed that, hey, I'm going to sign a 4-year extension here. And that's why the Pacers made the trade, because they knew that they weren't getting half a season of Pascal Siakam. In this case, whoever's getting Kevin Durant isn't getting 1 season of Kevin Durant. They're getting 3. That's their goal. They want to get 3 years of Kevin Durant, ages 36, 37, 38, 39. So because of that, that diminishes his overall value. What also diminishes his value is if we're sending him if we're sending him to a destination he doesn't want to go. If we're like, dude, we're trading you to the Portland Trailblazers. He's like, cool, I'm not signing an extension with them. And hey, Portland, I'm not signing extensions. Like, cool, we don't have to give up as much. We can give up salary filler to make this transaction happen, but there's not going to be any future draft picks. So that is something to keep in mind as we navigate these trades. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth. Matthew will read my trades, and I will kind of defend why or provide thought processes as to why I think that trade is plausible, and vice versa. And then again, if you're in the chat, let us know what you think. So, Matthew, here's my first trade. Read it to the crowd.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. 671 of you. I love the offseason. You're still watching. So, Kevin Durant goes to Toronto Raptors, receiving the Suns actually receive Emmanuel Quickley. He's on a 4-year, $32.5 million contract. Jakob Poeltl, 2 years, $19.5 million. A 2025 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and the 2028 second-round pick. And the first-round pick for this year is a 9th overall.
Yes. So the reason that I propose this trade is for a couple reasons. One, they just got Brandon Ingram, so they're trying to the Raptors are trying to do something up there in Toronto. And what they're going to do is try to give up Emmanuel Quickley, who, as you mentioned, 4 years, $32.5 million next year. They overpaid him. Like the Spurs, who overpaid a couple assets, when you are just trying to get above a certain threshold, you start to overpay guys. Well, Emmanuel Quickley is one of the guys who benefited from that. He's a point guard. The Suns can use a point guard. Jakob Poeltl, 2 years, $19.5 million. I feel like that's a proper contract for what he provides. Kind of a Nurkic-y player, makes a little bit more than Nurkic, but essentially what you're doing is you're getting your point guard and your center. You're getting the 9th overall pick. You're getting a first-round pick 2 years from now, and you're getting a second-round pick 3 years from now. And the way that the Toronto Raptors, in this theory that I'm creating, is they're going, you know what? We're getting Kevin Durant. We're going all in with this. We got Brandon Ingram. We're getting off of a bad contract in Emmanuel Quickley. Jakob Poeltl's up in 2 years. Let's use this as a launching pad and build around this. So what do you think of this trade, Matthew?
I actually think Kevin Durant, is he offended by a trade like this where he's just kind of he's traded for Emmanuel Quickley and Jakob Poeltl? You know what I mean? Like, you think he cares about that stuff? He's like, who's in the trade for me? And if you heard these names,
probably it's like, Kevin Durant.
Are you serious? Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about that. Obviously, I don't like it for the Suns. Jakob Poeltl probably just because of the hustle and big dude. But I'm not the biggest fan. I think the picks obviously are sexy. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Kevin Durant's going to Toronto, I don't think do you think he says yes or no on this, though? Not because of the contract issues or just location? Because he's a guy that likes to play somewhere cool. Like, if it's not cool, then it'd be like, eh.
It's cold in Toronto. Yeah, this is one where he might nix. I don't hate this for the Suns because it gives you options. Like the Emmanuel Quickley contract, in my opinion, is something that you let play out next year, and then you start to try to shop them. But the fact that it's 4 years is kind of a lot. You know, it takes me back to Nasir Little, who was vastly overpaid for 4 years. And it's like, fuck. And like last offseason, we're like, fuck, we still got 3 more years of that deal. And that might happen with Emmanuel Quickley. But I kind of, that's one of the first ones I cooked up. I saw that there was rumors that Toronto might be interested. I'm like, well, what would a Toronto deal look like? When you try to make the math work, that's kind of the best I could do. Emmanuel Quickley would have to be involved in that deal just from a salary filler standpoint. And that's a reminder to everybody. The way that the NBA cap structure is created, you can't trade Kevin Durant to the Raptors for just Jakob Poeltl and pocket $30 million in savings. It's not designed that way. Based on the team that's going to be acquiring Kevin Durant, there's, within like 90% to 110%, if they're in the second apron, first apron, whatever, you have to stack contracts to make it happen. It has to be somewhat close to the math. So, taking a look at what some of the chat says on this, I've always loved this name. Harry Pat Phoenix says hard pass. Michael Evans says, wow, seems like a lot in the fact that the Suns are actually getting back a lot. Eddie Yee, is Quickley any good? He's all right. He's not worth $32 million, I'll tell you that. Deborah Coulter says he says no in that one. So it looks like I swung and missed on the first one. All right, we're just warming up the trade machine. Okay, so
we're gonna strike out quick.
All right, here we go. All right, this is Matthew's first trade. This is a straight up deal. There's no picks involved. It's Kevin Durant, who again 1 year, $54.7 million, going to the Atlanta Hawks for Trae Young, who's 2 years, $45.9 million. So the Suns get rid of Kevin Durant, and then they have a backcourt of Trae Young and Devin Booker. Tell me about your trade, Matthew.
All right. Well, this is a blast from the past. This is from last year's trade machine podcast we did right after the season, probably the first pod after trade Kevin Durant. And I put in there Trae Young for Kevin Durant. I still think it's probably the best the Suns can get in a player that's coming back, right? There's no draft picks, there's no extra pieces on it, but it's just 1-for-1. Says it does work, but the fact that, Trae Young is a guy that, I don't know if players hate him or a lot of fans are not the biggest fan of him, but he has an opportunity to kind of be like next year's Halliburton, where he's under the radar, maybe overrated, comes through, maybe finds God, maybe goes and talks to a priest this offseason. Somebody maybe talks
lays
to somebody
off social media.
Yeah. Maybe he just opens up and he finds a deeper inner meaning of life. And he comes to Phoenix, and he is just kind of that guy to play perfect next to Devin Booker, who obviously Trae Young is a point guard. Devin Booker plays shooting guard once again. And I just think the upside's really high. And I think Atlanta obviously is kind of burnt out with Trae Young. I think he'll be on the move unless things are different. But obviously on the returning end, if Kevin Durant goes to Atlanta, they're not a contender. It's a place where Kevin Durant can just play ball and just not worry about competing as much. And then Atlanta would be happy with the return because it's just a name, right? It's a guy that they might not re-sign. Obviously, but if he goes to Atlanta and then gets traded or something, whatever, he can do whatever he wants in Atlanta. But I just think Atlanta might want him back from Trae Young because it's probably the best they can get returned to. So,
well, I know that there's soon going to be a reckoning in Atlanta what to do with Trae Young, because it just hasn't worked there. They had the one Eastern Conference Finals run, God, years ago. I mean, that was before COVID. I feel like it's been so long ago. And they're at this reckoning point where, okay, well, what do we do? I just don't like this for the Suns. Trae Young and Devin Booker as a backcourt is a nightmare defensively, and we're trying to change this identity into a defensive backcourt. So I can see how it works in the trade machine. I can't see how it works from a plausibility standpoint. Again, I don't know if it's one of those situations where Kevin Durant says no to this one as well. Seth, Logan, Hopkins, Young, Beal, Booker. Who loses? I can guess. Suns fever. Matthew smoking that shit again. South Texas. Y'all need picks though. Deborah Coulter, stop. LOL. No Trae, thanks from Brooks. All right. So we're 0 for 2. We're 0 for 2. All right. Well, let's try this one, Matthew. What do I got cooked up in this one? I like this one.
All right. This one's probably going to be close to what actually goes down. Kevin Durant goes to the Houston Rockets with the Suns' 2025 first-round pick, which is 29th overall. The Suns, in return, get Jalen Green on a 3-year, $33.3 million contract. Jabari Smith Jr., 1 year, $54 million?
That's incorrect. That's a typo.
Like, dude, why is he retired?
Well, that's the Kevin Durant contract when I copied and pasted it over. Hold on. Jabari Smith Jr. makes 12.4 next year.
I was going to say
1 year,
makes
12.4.
Okay, well then on top of that, the Suns get the 2025 first round pick, which is the 10th overall pick. All right, not too bad.
All right, so essentially the Suns trade Kevin Durant for Jalen Green and Jabari Smith, and then we swap picks. We give them our 29th this year, and we get our 10th. And here's the thought process here. Obviously, the Houston Rockets realized something when they lost in 7 games to the Golden State Warriors this past playoffs, is they need scoring. They need late game scoring. Fred VanVleet, guess what? Not enough. Jalen Green, not enough. So what do? They get Kevin Durant. Now, obviously, they've stated that they don't need Kevin Durant, that they're sticking behind Jalen Green, yada, yada, fucking yada, right? It's all posturing. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say, we love Jalen Green. He's amazing. Meanwhile, you're looking at your cap sheet. You're 3 years for $33 fucking million. Like, I don't know, man. Now, the thing I will say about this trade is I'm not a huge fan of Jalen Green. I think that he's a guy who just unfortunately has been in a situation when he was coming up as a rookie where he was on some bad Houston teams and he was a score-first guard and he didn't learn how to get out of that. Now, we've seen him slice and dice the Phoenix Suns for numerous years. That's because we're shitty at defense. It's not because he's like this amazing player, right? So yeah, the advantage of getting him 3 years, $33 million is you can eventually take that and do something else with it, if not this offseason. You take the trade and then you do something else with Jalen Green. You reroute him somewhere, somehow. You're taking the Kevin Durant contract. You're breaking up into smaller pieces. I love Jabari Smith Jr. I'm biased. I know this because he's been on my fantasy team the past 2 years, so I'm very in tune with what he's doing. And then you get one of our picks back. Now, I know what other people are saying out there. Well, we should get the 2027 first-round Suns pick back too, because that 10th pick is we're essentially trading them Cleveland's pick, which we own, for our pick. which is the 10th overall pick. I don't think that they would do that. I think that's asking just a little too much. And again, overvaluing what Kevin Durant brings. But I think that it's an opportunity to not necessarily make us a competitive team next year. We'll be a decent team next year. We're not going to be competitive, but it sets you on the path to being more competitive, to get that 10th overall pick, who in 2 to 3 years could develop into something. Jabari Smith Jr., who's going to be a restricted free agent next year, so you'll have his bird rights and you can sign him, and he could be a foundational piece moving forward. Jalen Green, you can move for something else. So it's not a move necessarily to make us good next year. It's a move to make us viable, competitive, and younger for the next 5 years. That's my game plan with that one. What do you think?
It sucks with these trades because I feel like, guys like, obviously Sengun's not going to be traded, or Amin Thompson, like the piece that the Suns fans would want back to build on is never going to be involved, right? I think the fact that we're just going to get kind of the B players or the C players is just something we have to deal with. The Jalen Green thing. So I'm interested in, if he's going to be dealt or not in any trade this offseason, if it's not for Kevin Durant, because I kind of feel like, Houston kind of build on these young players. I think maybe it was too high a stakes for Jalen Green in his first year in the playoffs. Maybe he just needs more time. Like, I hate giving up on him too soon, just because we see this sometimes in the NBA where a guy looks like complete shit in the playoffs or even in a half a season. Then he turns it on. And it's like, oh shit, like good thing they didn't trade this dude. Like that could be a reason to hold on to him. Because if I'm a Houston Rockets fan, I'm like, just give him one more chance. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So if the Suns did get him, I think there's a possibility where he has a higher upside than what we've seen, especially in the playoffs. Like he was good in the regular season. It was fine, but we just expect more from this guy. So there's a chance that that's there. So I like it because I just know we're not going to get those quality players back. We're going to get, of course, some guys that need some work. And those are the two players on the team that need work and more belief in them.
And obviously that's the case for Houston to not do this trade. Is they've stated in the past, they've seen the error of the Suns' ways. They have a young core that they're developing. They just went through their first playoff run together. And they could use this as an opportunity to get better, to define more who they are, add ancillary pieces to fortify who they are, rather than mailing in, their former 3rd overall pick and their former whatever Jabari Smith was, the 4th or 2nd, top 5 picks to get Kevin Durant to try to win now. If you take a look at the league and if you look at OKC and you go, man, they're going to be on a heater for the next 3 years. Maybe we should just continue to develop, compete, go through the process. So 4 years from now, we're a team that is lined up to be the next OKC. If that's their thinking, then they're not going to go after Kevin Durant. The challenge I will say with Green is he's duplicative, right? We already have Booker. We already have Beal. Now we have Green, like another shooting guard who we would play as a point guard, but he's really a shooting guard because he doesn't have the playmaking ability. So that's the challenge with that. But again, if you flip him again, I think that's what makes this trade appealing to at least myself. Taking a look at the chat, Suns Fever 83 says, this is doable. Hey, we got our first doable, Matthew.
Yep. Is it a foul tip or is it a single?
I think that's a single. Okay. It might be like maybe like try to trade Green after this is stretching into a double and we might get picked off, but at least we're going for it. South Texas says, I can argue Vassell is a better player than Green.
Yeah.
I can agree with that because he plays both ways. And I don't know. I really like Devin Vassell. Deborah Coulter, I like this. I would flip Green for a wing. I completely agree with that. And says, I would flip Green for a wing, trade New Orleans for Jones and a pick. Like that would be fantastic. I don't know if New Orleans would want to do that. Rumor is, based on what I've heard out of New Orleans, is like Herb Jones is kind of like the untouchable guy. Like they want to hold on to him.
I thought he was talking about Wingstop because he's the official face of Wingstop.
Oh
now,
yeah,
so that's what he was talking about. I would actually take Wingstop instead.
All right, next mock trade we have. Matthew has Kevin Durant going
strike one
to the Los Angeles Clippers in a deal straight up for Kawhi Leonard. Matthew, you got to walk me through the logic here because this is what's your reasoning? What's your reasoning?
This is like the one trade where I feel like I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna actually turn on ESPN and I'm gonna see this going across Stephen A. Smith's lower torso of Kawhi Leonard is going to the Suns for Kevin Durant. And you know why? Because I feel like it'd be like Kawhi Leonard goes to the Suns. And I'm like, God, what are you? I'm like, well, hold on. He was actually pretty good when he played last year, and they were title contenders with him in there. And I'm like, you know what? That's a better player to have than a Kevin Durant, who we couldn't rely on even when he was healthy. But when Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he makes us an automatic championship contender like he does every year with the Clippers. And I'm like, you know what? That's not too bad. But also, I did make a little bit of a change, all right, with the same team, just really quick. I did say Kevin Durant to the Clippers for Norman Powell, Zubats, and Chris Dunn. And that's kind of seems more realistic only because maybe the Clippers kind of double down with the stars and James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and then having Kevin Durant there as their triplets. I could see that happening more than this one, though, now.
Yeah, I see that happening way more than this one because the challenge with this one is, I mean, obviously, Kawhi Leonard just doesn't play. And if you're the Suns, you know, I guess I'll ask you this question. If you're the Phoenix Suns and you have Kevin Durant and you're trying to trade him, what would your objective be? What are you trying to do by trading Kevin Durant? Are you trying to – I'll just ask you that.
Yeah.
If you're trading Kevin Durant, what are you trying to do?
Well, you know, after the press conference today with Ott, you know, it made me kind of believe like this Suns team – I don't want to say like, hey, we're going to play copycat with what the Pacers are doing, you know, surround Booker, which is good, hard playing players. Because obviously that's what I'm looking for now. That's what I really want. That's why I feel like having guys like a Chris Dunn or a Norman Powell on your team rather than a Kawhi would make more sense for what the Suns are trying to do. So that's why I made the quick switch there.
Okay.
But I already had you update one slide. So I'm like, I'll just kind of say this after I do the Kawhi Leonard.
Right,
so I still like the Kawhi Leonard one.
I get it, but so to answer my own question, what is the objective of trading Kevin Durant? Why do you trade him? Because you are in cap hell. And the only way out of cap hell is to try to trade Kevin Durant for smaller pieces like Jalen Green, who you could then reflip into smaller pieces. And eventually, you know, you have a roster that's filled out because we know from experience and again, a lot of this has to do with the horrible Bradley Beal contract. And that's why we have to trade Kevin Durant. It's because Bradley Beal is eating up so much cap space, but he's got no trade clause. But essentially, the reason you trade Kevin Durant is because you want to put yourself on a path that involves youth, athleticism, draft capital. You're trying to get under the cap, get younger, get more athletic, because last season we were overinflated and unathletic and uninspired as a team. So you're changing your trajectory. That's my one reason why a trade that involves Kevin Durant going to the Clippers for Kawhi Leonard just doesn't make sense to me, because Kawhi Leonard's 2 years, $50 million. So essentially, you're just taking Kevin Durant and you're like, you know what? You make 54.7. Let's just double that and deal with your injuries for 2 seasons. I don't see it. But I do like your pivot, because that kind of plays into my next trade. Why don't you try to read this motherfucker off, man?
Oh, yeah. All right,
it's a 3-teamer, our first 3-teamer.
3-team trade. Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
Let's get this one going. All right, so we got Kevin Durant going to the Clippers. Oh, like that so far. And then the Suns do receive in a 3-team trade Lauri Markkanen from the Jazz and Ivica, I can never say his first name, Zubats. Ivica Zubats from the Clippers. So what the Jazz get back is Norman Powell, Grayson Allen, Derek Jones Jr. from the Clippers, and then also the 2029 first-round pick goes to the Phoenix Suns from the Jazz, and the 2030 first-round pick goes to the Suns from the Jazz. So the Suns overall.
Sorry, you read it wrong. I have the wrong logos. So the Suns give up their 2029 first-round pick to the Jazz, and the Clippers give up their 2030 first-round pick from the Jazz. So the Jazz, in this scenario, they're giving up Lauri Markkanen. So what do they get back for Lauri Markkanen? They get Norman Powell, Grayson Allen, Derek Jones, and 2 first-round picks, which is a fucking haul for Lauri Markkanen. The Suns get Ivica Zubac from the Clippers, and the Clippers, in order to get Kevin Durant, they give up Norman Powell, Derek Jones, a first-round pick, and Ivica Zubac. But what they're doing is they're getting Kevin Durant. Now they've got their big 3 again. They got Kevin Durant. They've got Kawhi Leonard. They got James Harden reunited with Kevin Durant. So the people on the wall at the Intuit Dome are going fucking crazy, right? And what did the Suns get? They get Lauri Markkanen and Ivica Zubac. They get we finally have a team that has some size and some girth and some internal scoring. And this is the Clippers taking a look at what Zubats did last year and saying, you know what? This guy had a career year. Let's maximize his 3rd-team All-NBA. Let's try to maximize what our return on him is, and let's get Kevin Durant out of this deal. Now, obviously, this is my homer pick. This is the one I put together that I feel obviously slights a lot more towards the Phoenix Suns than any other team. What do you think of this trade?
I love this one, especially for the Jazz too. Norman Powell and Grayson Allen look like Jazz players.
Well, I mean, Grayson Allen was a Jazz player.
Wait, was he?
Yeah, that's who drafted him.
Oh, fuck, I didn't know that. But Norman Powell does it too. So I think the fact that the Suns are getting Markkanen, I think that's perfect. Obviously, he said size, and Zubac's the starting center. I think that's obviously the best trade so far. Even giving up those draft picks, I think it's well worth it because Markkanen, I think, needs to kind of go somewhere else to soar, spread his wings, and fly.
Yeah, and that's my whole thing. You know, you look at Markkanen, and he's under contract the next, I think it's 3 years, maybe it's 4. 4 years, $46.3 million. Like, that's a lot to play for him. And the question the Jazz have to ask themselves is, do they want him to be a cornerstone of their franchise? Or with Danny Ainge in there, who loves draft picks, are they, you know, they bought him out this year. They could have traded Markkanen and got a ton for him in the past, and that's going to start to fade as that salary goes up. They bought him out. They wanted to make a run at Cooper Flag. They saw like Markkanen, Cooper Flag, this could be something. They didn't get it. They got the 5th overall pick. And they still keep the 5th overall pick in this scenario. They're not trading it anywhere. They're getting a couple picks. They're getting a couple players. One of them in Powell, who's an expiring, and so they can make a decision on what to do with that. And then Kevin Durant goes to the Clippers. So I mean, again, that's I know it's a homer trade, Matthew, because I take a look at the chat. Who, by the way, on your last one with Kawhi Leonard, Suns Fever, holy shit, he got a hold of some good ass shit. And Harry Pat Phoenix, what is Lizzie smoking? Because I want it. South Texas, what the fuck? Kawhi will never play. But on this one, I know it's on my Jazz one. I know it's a homer pick because, you know, Carlos Martinez, I love it. Deborah Coulter, I would definitely do this in a heartbeat. Suns Fever 83. This would be good. If every Suns fan's agreeing with it, it means it's one-sided in the way of the Suns, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Because I think obviously I jumped right on that one, so I was totally down.
There go damn.
It's a homer.
All right. Well, here's Matthew's last trade. He has Kevin Durant going to the Memphis Grizzlies. That's right. He's trading them to Memphis. What are the Suns getting back in return, you might ask? They're getting back a 2031 first-round pick from Memphis, a 2027 first-round pick from Memphis, Brandon Clark, who has $12.5 million next year and has 2 years left on his contract, and Ja Morant, 3 years, $39.4. Why, Matthew? Why would Memphis do this?
No, so the one I think I resent you was just Desmond Bane and Brandon Clark. So I think I had originally a 1-for-1, or no, it was Ja Morant and Brandon Clark originally.
And Brandon Clark, yeah. I didn't see Desmond Bane.
So I did have that originally, but, you know, I thought, you know, the thing is Ja Morant did mention, you know, playing with Kevin Durant to kind of put them over the hump and win a championship next year, something that he's really looking forward to. I think Kevin Durant going over to the Grizzlies, just to play next to Ja with JJJ, that's an automatic contender right there. I think that's a perfect fit for him and what they have going on over there. Desmond Bane coming over here to Phoenix with Brandon Clark, I think that's a perfect fit for Bane, even though obviously he's a shooting guard. But if you're going to play Devin Booker at the point, which might be a thing because who the fuck's going to really just manage the ball, I think that's a perfect fit next to him. And I think Desmond Bane is really close to being an all-star. I think this guy doesn't get as much credit. I know he has a little baby arms and stuff like that, but he's fantastic. He fell off last year. If he really thinks he still has it and wants to play with Kevin Durant, go ahead, go for it. I really think that Desmond Bane coming over here can really show that he can be like a 1B right next to Booker. So that's kind of my dream backcourt of those two guys. But you know, that's the best I can see happening. Brandon Clark on the other end with the draft picks, just kind of throw-ins. Brandon Clark's not really a starter, so he'd probably come off the bench, but obviously
and injured all the time too.
And yeah, he isn't, but I guess he'll be back for the start of next season. So we'll see how that goes as he's rehabbing this offseason. So I think the fact that the Suns can maybe swing that's huge. Just doing a 1-for-1 with Kevin Durant and Ja Morant also is something that might be kind of
that wouldn't work financially though.
But with Brandon Clark, but I don't think that's going to happen anyways. So it was supposed to be Desmond Bane.
I don't know if he goes to Memphis. I feel like I don't know. I don't know on that one. I'd have to think longer on it, and I just don't see him going to the Grizzlies. But I get your point of him going there with the mentality that they have on the defensive end. It opens up Kevin Durant a lot. Because they have the ability to play big and allow him to play a little smaller. And like, you're our offensive guy. We got you on defense, and he's still a great defender. All right, last trade we have here, and I do love. Again, we have a a Spurs fan in the chat, and he's like, man, these trades are wild, LOL. Realistically, none of these teams would do any of these trades other than Houston. Yeah, that's what happens when you come to a Suns fans podcast, man. We're in a shit situation.
But
We're
I don't
trying
understand
to find optimism.
I don't understand that comment. It doesn't make any sense because I feel like the Suns, the last few years, we've been making trades based off what the fans want. But if you see any trade happen, like the Luka Doncic obviously was really drastic.
Yeah, that was
trades that happen. You're like, wait, what? I did not see that happening. So the fact, it's great that it might happen. You never know. Things happen all the time that we never see.
Well, get ready, Spurs fan, because our last trade has to do with the San Antonio Spurs, which is the team that obviously a lot of rumors are percolating relative to Kevin Durant going to San Antonio. I think last I saw it was -160 on FanDuel, that's what his destination is going to be. Arizona Sports' John Gambadoro reported that Kevin Durant informed somebody close to him that he would like to go to the Spurs. And if you look at the Spurs, the way that I see it with them right now, Wemby has the shoulder/blood clot issue. Rumor has it he's grown another inch.
Yeah.
They might want to be speeding up that timetable a little bit because unfortunately the history of big men who continue to grow or who are too big, it hasn't shined kindly upon them. You think of Yao Ming, who was there, he was dominant, all of a sudden he was gone. Ralph Sampson, a kid a dominant big when I was a kid, they were just gone. And I feel like the Spurs might be at that point where, like, you know what, we need to kind of try to speed up this process. We can't go through a 4 or 5 year development process with Wemby. We need to speed it up. And therefore, Matthew, I've put forth this trade. Go ahead and read it.
Ooh, Kevin Durant to the Spurs for Devin Vassell, 4 years, $27 million. Harrison Barnes, 1 year, $19 million. Jeremy Sohan for 1 year, $7 million, and then a 2025 first round pick this year, the 14th overall.
So, what do you think of that trade?
I think it's something that's gonna happen. I think this is gonna be the trade that happens. So that's why I kind of stay away from the Spurs. I feel like they're gonna be the team that that Kevin Durant does go to.
Yeah, and I know if you're a Suns fan, you look at this trade and you're underwhelmed. You go Devin Vassell, 4 years, $27 million. That's an overpay. He's a good player, but again, he's a shooting guard. We have a shooting guard now. You could have him play in the small forward position, but he's 6'5", so you'll be undersized there. If you put him at the 2 and then Devin Booker's at the 1, you're doing the thing that you've been trying to avoid. Well, you haven't been trying to avoid, but you should be avoiding. You got to stop playing Devin Booker out of position. You've been doing that with Bradley Beal, right? Harrison Barnes is a salary filler. That's 1 year, $19 million. Jeremy Sohan is a salary filler. That's 1 year, $7 million. So what you're doing is you're taking Kevin Durant and you're saying, you know what? We're going to get 2 players who next year will give us $26 million worth of cap relief that we so desperately need. And then you get that 14th overall pick, which puts you on a trajectory towards, again, developing a player. And you still have the 29th overall pick. And you still have the 52nd overall pick. So as a Suns fan, again, I've said this on a couple podcasts, you have to realistically do a couple things. You have to understand what Kevin Durant's trade value is. It's not as much as you think. Because I know what everyone's saying. Put in the second pick. The Suns should get the second overall pick. They're giving up Kevin Durant. Dude, Kevin Durant's going to be 37, bro. Like, they're not going to give up the second overall pick. And again, if my thought process is correct, if Victor Wembanyama is on a tighter timetable than Spurs fans want to admit due to potential health issues, that second overall pick is valuable to them because he's somebody who's going to take 2 to 3 years to develop, and who knows where the organization is going to be right there at that point. The other thing that you need to do as a Suns fan is you need to look at short-term flexibility financially, which is the next 3 years. A deal like this accomplishes that. Long-term flexibility, you got to get under the second apron, and this trade is going to help with that, because if you don't get under the second apron, it'll be our 3rd consecutive year in it, and that's when our 2032 pick becomes frozen, so we can't trade it, and it gets moved to the back end of the second round or the back end of the first round. And that's, punitive, and you want to get out of that. And the third thing is you want to be competitive, but not all these 3 things are mutually exclusive. We might not be competitive as competitive as we want to be next year. You got to start to look in the term of what are we going to be in the next 3 years, not next season. Devin Booker, the next 3 to 4 years is kind of his prime, right? So we have to maximize the prime. And guess what? Next year might be a building year where we're setting the foundation for what's to come. And we need to accept that as Suns fans. I think Band of Brothers, right? I watch that every year. I watched it again this past week. D-Day, I watch it on the 6th of June every year. And I watched it again. There's this one scene where Lieutenant Spears is talking to Blythe in a foxhole, and he's scared. And he's like, the reason you're scared is because you still have hope. The sooner that you realize that you're already dead, the sooner you can start functioning better as a soldier. And as Suns fans, we need to have that mentality. The sooner we realize that next year we're dead, the sooner we can start to function as proper fans and understand the next 3 to 4 years is what we should be really looking at when we try to utilize this trade. So again, looking at this trade for Devin Vassell and Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, and the 14th overall pick, it might not be the sexiest one, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. That's my case. I rest.
Yeah, and where are we with Matt Ishbia, this whole thing of kind of just every year being competitive? Like, is this a thing where Matt Ishbia knows we have a rebuilding year? Because I know we talk about it a lot. I know we hear the trade rumors to the Spurs and knowing that we're just going to get Vassell and Sohan back. But is this something that is actually approved by our owner?
Yes, I think so.
We're not going to get a star back. We're just going to get rid of Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
You fucked up the trade. You got rid of Mikal Bridges and all those picks. And now we're just going to get these guys back. He's like, okay, I'm okay with it. I fessed up. I fucked up. Is that really going to be a thing, you think?
I think it is, because in his end of season press conference, when Matt Ishbia got up in front of the media, which not every owner does, he got up and he said, you know what? He used his corporate buzzwords. But he said, you know what? I'm going to be owning this team for the next 50 years. There's going to be years that we're making a run for it. And there's years where we're not going to be as good from a record wise, but we're going to be competitive. You're going to appreciate the way that we play, and you'll see the vision moving forward. And that was when he said that, I'm like, we're going to suck for a couple of years. He's going to roll it back. And that's exactly what he's been doing. Again, he came in here, he threw his wallet at the situation. He tried to buy a championship, didn't work. And now we have to pay for the sins. And at the same time, what he's doing by bringing in his Michigan State guys, his cronies, if you will, is he's building the Suns organization like he did United Wholesale Mortgage. He's going to fall into something that's familiar. He built this massive mortgage company under values and systems that he's now going to try to make work within the confines of the Phoenix Suns. He brings in Brian Gregory, who he knows shares similar values because of Michigan State. They have a shared common purpose and goal. Same thing with Ott. So this whole rebuilding thing, some people poo-poo it. They think it's collegiate nepotism. I think it's a change in direction. I don't know if it's a good one, but I can respect the fact that it's a change. Because guess what? The last 2 fucking years didn't work. So we need a change. So change is happening. And everyone's like, well, he's just hiring a guy internally. It's not change. Like, yeah, it is change. It's definitely a change.
Okay. Yeah. No, I know. I just
sorry.
That's why I threw like the Kawhi Leonard or the John Morant, like those trades, because I feel like it's more Matt Ishbia style.
100%.
The fact that we're changing, I just have to see it first to believe it. So I think that's where I'm kind of at right now. But
yeah,
looking forward to it, man. If we can actually get players back and some draft picks, I'm okay with it, because I do not want to go through another season with that 3-headed monster that we had.
Yeah, I just don't want to go through a season
back, except for maybe
where we're just constantly disappointed, right? Like if you go into a season and you kind of know, again, like you already know that you're dead, you can enjoy it a little bit more. I feel you're still gonna be frustrated with things. And as two guys who every single night after every single Suns game, we go live here on the Suns Jam Session podcast. We go live after every game. And to go through what we had to go through, these, especially last season, where we went in with such high expectations, with such an inflated roster, and to just see them continually just play with no effort, it was painful. If we're losing games and we're giving a shit, I'd prefer that than losing games and not giving a shit. So, I mean, that's where I kind of stand. Exactly. All right, perfect. And you take a look at what some of the people say, of course, South Texas, now there's a realist trade. Harry Pat Phoenix loves this. Carlos Martinez says, do it. Suns Fever 83 says, who can we get at 14? I'll say this, Suns Fever 83. Tune in next week. We're going to have somebody on from the No Ceilings podcast to actually go over potential draft picks and give us some scouting reports. So we're going to have a good overall show relative to the NBA draft a week before the NBA draft happens. Matt says, this is a reverse Mikal Cam trade for the Spurs. This would be a steal. Carlos Martinez says, flip Vassell. And remember, the other thing about Vassell, and I know that you agree with this, Matthew, when we did the draft prep the year that he was drafted, we were both high on Vassell. It was Vassell and Halliburton were the two guys. Like, you loved Halliburton, and I really loved Vassell.
No, I didn't like Halliburton.
Oh, was
Halliburton
it?
Was the one guy I didn't like. Yeah, I hated Halliburton.
Oh,
I was like,
you were
I hope
wrong.
the Suns don't get him. I was way off on that one, man.
You're way off.
Can you guys believe it? After all those trades, you're like, what? Matthew was wrong? Yeah.
Well, on that note, again, a lot of people are saying that this trade is going to be done before the trade deadline, or I'm sorry, before the NBA draft, because draft picks will be involved. So continue to stay tuned to the Suns Jam Session YouTube channel, because I know that we'll throw together some shorts as different news kind of comes out there. But this is a fun exercise, man. I always love doing the trade machines in the offseason. It is probably one of the more fun times of year because everybody loves to create something, and that's what you're doing when you're making trades. You're creating a possibility, a wormhole in time where you have an opportunity to change the fate of the franchise, and then it never goes the way that you expected, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that we're sitting here right now after a great finals game, and the fact that the Suns are almost kind of rebuilding, there's a lot of hope in the future, I feel like, for the Phoenix Suns, right? It's quick. It's weird how quickly things turn around.
Don't let it get up. Don't let your hope get up to. You've been kind of the negative Nancy on these recent podcasts, and to hear you be optimistic, it scares me. So don't do that quite yet. We got a long way to go, man.
Because I feel like we're going to get Trae Young, dude. I'm pumped.
And on that note, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Again, remember to subscribe, rate, review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. It helps with the algorithms, lets everybody know where they can find us. And if you are watching elsewhere, stop by YouTube and do so. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review wherever you're consuming the content. Again, my name, John Voida, Bright Side of the Sun managing editor. Stop by the website. We have a ton of great content, mock trades going every day. 'Tis the season. Matthew Lissy, you can follow him at Matthew Lissy, and so one of our senior staff writers. I'm looking forward to reading something he writes again one day. And on that note, Matthew, tell him what to do.
Go home, love your family, everybody.
Go home, love your Trae Young.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.